Imagine waking up tomorrow and before your feet even touch the cold floor, a quiet voice whispers in your ear, a voice you recognize but rarely acknowledge, asking, "What if today was your last?" And maybe you brush it away because you've heard it before, somewhere in the distance, muffled by routines and drowned out by the relentless noise of responsibility. But today, that voice feels louder, clearer, undeniable, and you're forced to pause in that fragile, sacred moment between sleep and awakening to ask yourself, when was the last time I felt truly alive? Because the truth is, you've been running, not from deadlines or bills or arguments, but from something deeper, something within you that quietly wonders if there's more to your days than simply surviving them. If perhaps you've mistaken repetition for stability, familiarity for comfort, and numbness for peace, and though you've built your life carefully, brick by brick, shielding yourself from disappointment and heartbreak, insulating yourself from risk and pain, you're beginning to see cracks, tiny hairline fractures in the walls you've so diligently constructed around your heart, reminders that safety was never meant to be the goal. You keep waiting for the right time, for clarity to come once your mind settles, for happiness to gently knock on your door once your problems are neatly resolved, as if joy and fulfillment are polite guests patiently standing in line behind chaos, ready to step forward once you finally find room for them. But life isn't polite, and happiness doesn't wait its turn, and those perfect conditions you're holding out for don't exist. Never did, never will. The reality is quietly devastating yet beautifully freeing. There is no grand reveal, no pivotal moment when the universe gives you permission to be present. There is only now, this very breath, fleeting and precious, disappearing before you even fully notice it. Each inhale, each exhale, these are miracles, quiet symphonies composed solely for you, played once and never again. Yet somehow you've convinced yourself they'll keep coming indefinitely, like a river that never runs dry, until one day you look down and realize the water is gone, and you're left grasping at memories of all the moments you took for granted, because that's what scares you, not the ending itself, not death, but the thought of reaching your final breath and realizing you spent more time hiding than living, more energy maintaining appearances than embracing truth, more of your heart guarded and hidden than shared openly, vulnerable and raw, with those who matter. You fear discovering too late that the life you thought you were protecting yourself from losing was never fully yours to begin with, because you never allowed yourself the freedom to truly live it. Yet beneath that fear, beneath that layer of carefully constructed illusions, lies something magnificent, the possibility of choosing differently, of stepping bravely beyond the comfort zone you've mistaken for safety, and finally greeting yourself, the real you, with the honesty you've avoided for too long. What would happen if, just once, you paused to fully feel the sun on your face, to laugh without restraint, to love without guarantees, to speak the truth without a filter of anxiety or regret? What if today, right now, became the turning point you've always secretly hoped would find you? You don't have to run anymore, not from the uncertainty of tomorrow, nor from the mistakes of yesterday, not from your desires, nor your wounds, nor your dreams. All those things you've been chasing, peace, fulfillment, love, have never been somewhere else. They've been right here, hidden within the quiet courage to finally stand still and ask yourself, am I ready to stop running and truly begin living? There's a story we've all been living, a comforting myth we've repeated so often it feels undeniably true, that our life is somewhere out there, patiently waiting behind an invisible threshold, and all we must do is keep holding on, keep pushing, keep enduring, until we finally earn the right to step through into happiness. We tell ourselves that fulfillment will arrive once we've fixed every flaw, resolved every conflict, and neatly arranged every piece of our uncertain world into something that feels safe enough to embrace. But we never stop to ask who taught us to postpone joy, who convinced us that peace can only follow struggle, or who made us believe that our time here is infinite enough to spend so much of it merely preparing to live. Because the painful truth one we've masterfully hidden beneath layers of distraction and polite denial, is that time doesn't bend to our intentions. It moves on quietly and steadily, indifferent to our delays, oblivious to our promises of someday, reminding us gently yet persistently that our illusions of endless tomorrows are nothing but sand slipping steadily through our fingers, grains that we notice only once they're already gone. And the haunting reality is that when we continually choose to wait, when we refuse to claim the moment we're in right now, we're not simply postponing our happiness. We're gambling away the most precious resource we'll ever possess, the irreplaceable, fleeting minutes that compose our life. Yet somehow we remain convinced that life's purpose lies just beyond our reach, in a distant, perfectly constructed future, one where courage is effortless, vulnerability feels safe, and clarity is handed out freely, like a gift from a benevolent universe rewarding our patience. But the universe isn't waiting to reward your patience. It's waiting for your boldness, for the courage to step into the unknown long before clarity arrives, to feel your way through the dark by the faint glow of your deepest intuition, recognizing that true living doesn't come wrapped in certainty, but rather emerges through the raw, terrifying yet liberating experience of finally letting go. And perhaps what frightens us most isn't the uncertainty itself, but the realization that while we've been waiting for confidence, waiting for approval, waiting for permission, we've gradually silenced the voice within us that once knew exactly what it meant to feel alive, trading our dreams for safety, our passions for comfort, and our authenticity for acceptance. It's not life that's heavy. It's the burden of postponing who we truly are, of betraying ourselves day after day, year after year, until we no longer recognize the face in the mirror, wondering where that person who once dreamed and danced and loved freely has disappeared to. Because in the end, clarity doesn't precede action. It is born from it. It's the willingness to step forward despite the fear, to speak the truth even when your voice trembles, to love wholeheartedly without guarantees, knowing that pain might follow but choosing connection over caution anyway. And yes, it feels reckless, even dangerous, to surrender control, to abandon the security of familiar routines and carefully constructed identities. But in that surrender, in that messy, vulnerable moment, life reveals itself not as a distant promise, but as an intimate, breathtaking reality that has always been available to us, waiting patiently beneath the surface of our fears. So perhaps today, instead of holding your breath for the perfect tomorrow, you might exhale into the messy, beautiful chaos of now. Perhaps this moment, this ordinary, imperfect moment, holds exactly the miracle you've spent your whole life chasing. Perhaps all you've ever needed wasn't hidden behind another milestone or accomplishment, but right here, whispering quietly beneath the noise of your thoughts, reminding you gently, insistently, that there is nothing left to wait for. Because the truth you've avoided isn't just that tomorrow isn't guaranteed, it's that tomorrow isn't even real. All you ever truly have, all you've ever truly had, is this singular, fragile, extraordinary moment, asking you quietly, are you finally ready to stop waiting and begin to truly live? It doesn't happen with fanfare or dramatic revelations. Instead, honesty arrives quietly, in the ordinary moments you've grown accustomed to overlooking. Perhaps it's late in the evening, the room wrapped in soft darkness. Or maybe it's during the silence of your morning coffee, when the noise you've built your life around momentarily fades. In that rare pause, your internal monologue hesitates, and you suddenly catch yourself listening, not to the relentless chatter of expectations or plans, but to a deeper, clearer voice that's waited patiently beneath the chaos. At first, you dismiss it. This isn't convenient, it's not the right time, and there's too much at stake in the fragile peace you've painstakingly maintained. But honesty, once acknowledged, refuses to be silenced again. It gently pulls at the corners of your carefully constructed facade, whispering truths you spent years avoiding, that you've traded dreams for safety, authenticity for acceptance, passion for predictability, that you've molded yourself into shapes defined by the approval of others, silently hoping they'd eventually love you enough to let you finally rest. And now you're beginning to see that no amount of validation ever truly quieted the ache of self-betrayal. In this moment of quiet honesty, you don't feel relief. Not yet. Instead, you're struck by a sense of tender mourning for the self you left behind. For all the times you silenced your instincts to keep the peace. For every dream you quietly let dissolve beneath practical concerns. It's not anger you feel. It's clarity. Sharp and unsettling. You realize, maybe for the first time, that honesty isn't about confronting others with your truths. It isn't about dramatic confessions or sweeping changes announced loudly for everyone to hear. It's about facing yourself, quietly, bravely, and finally admitting the truth that's been living within you all along. You aren't fully alive in this carefully curated life. You've grown tired of the performance, exhausted from balancing everyone's expectations, while your own desires linger quietly, unanswered. You've become adept at smiling through half-truths, settling into a comfort that numbs rather than nourishes. And yet, there's beauty here in the courage it takes to sit in silence, in this unvarnished truth, and decide you can't continue pretending. You don't know exactly what comes next, and that's okay. Honesty doesn't promise immediate solutions, only authenticity. It offers the chance, perhaps for the first time, to truly meet yourself as you are. Unfinished, uncertain, yet finally, genuinely present. This moment isn't loud, but it's deeply transformative. It's the quiet shift of a soul choosing integrity over applause, peace over pretense, truth over temporary comfort. Because honesty, real honesty, isn't something you speak. It's something you become. Nobody ever tells you that the journey home isn't about discovering something new. It's about rediscovering what was always there, quietly waiting beneath the layers of who you learned to become. And perhaps that's the gentlest truth of all. You were never truly lost. You simply wandered away from yourself, trading authenticity for acceptance, peace for approval, and silence for the noisy applause of a world that never truly saw you. Yet somewhere beneath the facade, beneath all the pretending, beneath the weary attempts at perfection, there remained a silent observer, patient and knowing, untouched by your struggles, quietly whispering that you never had to fight so hard to be something you're not. That gentle voice inside never asked you to become extraordinary. It only asked you to be real, to return home to the quiet strength that needed no validation. When you finally listen, when you finally set down the masks, the roles, and the endless expectations, there is no great fanfare, no thunderous applause, only the quiet, peaceful realization that coming home to yourself is an act of profound courage and profound humility. You understand, perhaps for the first time, that the freedom you were seeking wasn't in escaping who you were, but in embracing everything you already are. Slowly, gently, you begin again. You wake up differently, no longer asking what the world demands of you, but what your heart quietly desires. You stop trying to prove your worth through your productivity, your busyness, your endless striving. And instead, you learn to find joy in the simplicity of being present, fully and softly alive in each quiet moment. You stop running away from your vulnerability and instead invite it in, realizing it was never weakness, but your greatest source of strength and honesty. You let yourself be seen, not as the polished version the world once applauded, but as the beautifully imperfect soul you always were, quietly awaiting recognition. And in this return, you find peace, not because everything around you is perfect, but because you've finally chosen truth over comfort, presence over performance, wholeness over approval. Your soul no longer feels abandoned because you've come home. And if the world ever tries to draw you away again, and surely it will, you'll remember this sacred truth. You were never meant to merely fit in. You were never meant to be perfectly understood or endlessly praised. You were simply meant to live authentically, softly, and courageously, to continually return to the gentle peace of your true self. Perhaps, after all, this is the quiet, lasting success you've been searching for. To live your life in such a way that nothing inside you is ever abandoned again.